I just begin my remarks by wholeheartedly congratulating you on your terrific announcement yesterday of the 310 schools that have been brought into the whole JET area, and that's going to make a huge difference to so many thousands of students across the country with a 32 million investment. I want to wholeheartedly congratulate you on that piece of work first. Secondly, just to say around this, I suppose as somebody who not only taught history of art but corrected it for the state examinations myself, I am acutely aware for teachers to give the adequate advice to students, accurate advice to students in terms of the time spent on questions. The marking scheme is very, very important. In my experience, that was available to us in history of art, both at examination level and also for corrections as well. And I think that's hugely important for teachers to have that guidance around that, so they can give the right information to their students about how much time they should spend on questions. And that, again, Minister, I'd ask you to look at this, particularly for history and geography. I don't think it would be precluded to say that they should be given that guidance. As I said, we had that in history of art, and I don't see why that can't be the same for geography and history.
Thank you very much, Deputy. I do want to say that consequent to there being a pandemic for the last 2 years, exams that should have taken place and were being examined for the first time did not take place and are open for assessment now. And it is in line with long-standing practice and in the interest of fairness that the SEC do not provide marking schemes for sample papers, as the marking scheme cannot be finalised in the absence of a review of a candidate work produced under live examination conditions. The SEC advises that it would not be appropriate to draw any inference from any marking scheme on a sample paper, as it may not reflect the live paper. The SEC will publish the marking schemes at the time of issue of the provisional examination results, and this will assist candidates who are considering whether or not they may wish to appeal these provisional results. And I do want to say as well that it is important to note that there are no choice examination papers, and candidates are required to answer all of the questions on the examination paper. And in addition, the examination papers are in a completion booklet format, and the space provided to the candidate is indicative of the amount that the candidate now, is required to write to answer that question. And I do hear the point that you're making, but I do think that the NCA are making the point that a live exam will determine the final marking.
Deputy. Thank you, Minister. I suppose the expectation was raised while in 2021 and 2020 when the NCCA issued a number of Junior Cert sample questions online. And again, as we know, clearly stated that each question is not weighted the same in terms of the marking scheme. And I suppose that raised the expectation and the hope that there could be clarity given around that to, again, give teachers the ample opportunity to give guidance to their students. Look, it's a difficult time for teachers and students. And as you say, we've come through a difficult time around education because of the pandemic, and with the first maybe exams approaching, the state exams approaching that are some sort of normality. There's an eagerness there with teachers to give their students as much advice and guidance around that as they possibly can. I appreciate your clarity around the question, the Minister, this morning, and I suppose we'll seek to endeavour to give our teachers as much clarity close to the time as possible.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. And again, Deputy, look, I do want to acknowledge the enormous body of work that's been undertaken by teachers and indeed by students. And I'm particularly conscious that for the first time in 2 years now, in this third year, we will have the Junior Cycle exams, and we do welcome that. And I do appreciate also the workload of teachers and their absolute ambition for their students to maximise their abilities and their achievements on the paper. But I do want to be fair about it also and say that it is not a choice examination paper. It is in booklet form, and there are a certain number of lines given, so therefore that's indicative of the amount of time or space that needs to be given to an answer. And equally so, I suppose the point that's been made by the NCA that work produced under live examination conditions ultimately determines the marking scheme, and I think it's appropriate. That has been long-standing practice. But nonetheless, I do want to wish all students and indeed staff who are supporting them at this time the very best, and I know great work has been done in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. So, Deputy Brian.